Okay, normally I come right out of the gate with the biggest headline, the most eye-popping images that I can. In this video, I'm going to have to lay down a few building blocks where we're leading up to a demonstration where I show you that these UAP dragons, these fast movers, these Mach 2 football-sized craft are not just using speed as camouflage. You cannot just not see them because they're moving too fast. I'm going to show you that they have a cloaking system which enables them to be stationary right in front of your face and you can still not see them. I am going to prove this and show you in ways that I never have before. Though I have told you about this, I have never shown you the way I'm about to. I'm also going to demonstrate a way that I believe I've discovered that overrides the cloaking system using the Doppler effect and the zoom on the camera. It's something I discovered yesterday while preparing this presentation that blew my mind. So we're going to have to build up to that. I'm just going to walk you through the steps that I was going through while preparing this presentation, leading up to the discovery that I made yesterday. And let's move on with it. So, this is something some of you might have already seen circulating on other channels. What you're going to hear is the audio from an airplane pilot to ground control regarding something that flew underneath his wing, the shape of a football, the size of a football, doing Mach 2. And Latchkey Hustles says, I got your Mach 2 footballs right here, and splices in multiple other examples where the same exact thing happens, and between him and Custodian Files, they have thousands of examples of this happening. The dam is about to break. Disclosure is coming. People won't be able to ignore this much longer.
Troy 2-1, go ahead.
And the visuals that you're about to see is a computer animation of what the pilot describes seeing, overlaid along with the audio of the pilot describing what was happening as it was happening.
It's not weird, but I just had something pass underneath my wing, maybe like a football-sized object right underneath our wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Do you think it was a drone or?
I have no idea. I got my sensor operator looking for it on the camera right now. We'll see if we can find it. But it's like a dark gray cylindrical object, and it was probably the size of a football, and it passed maybe 10 feet under our right wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Thank you for the report. Keep me advised if you find anything else out.
Yeah, we'll do. We're looking for it now. LA Center, Troy 2-1. We got something on air-to-air radar. We're trying to get visual on it.
Troy 2-1, Roger.
And LA Center 094 bearing from us for about 60 miles is where it is now.
The other thing that's very interesting about this is you hear them call out what they believe they're tracking this object about 60 miles away because they've got their own airborne radar. If true, within the 2 minutes when they called back, that would place this object going about Mach 2. That would absolutely, in my opinion, eliminate any prosaic explanation of a drone or anything of that nature.
This example right here where he just showed you a whole cluster of them flying past this airplane. There's another example I'm going to show you where there's at least maybe 1,000 of these drones swarming an airplane.
Hey folks, so there's a capture that just a couple days ago, and I wanted to share it with you all, and didn't really want to wait for the weekend because it's pretty dynamic. So this is what we've got. It's like a swarm of these things, and it's a lot of them, and it's really interesting because visually it almost looks like they're swimming. And you know, also, I happened to record a swarm of gnats a couple months ago and never did anything with it because there was nothing relevant about the capture at the time. Now it's relevant, so it's included here at the end for contrast. It's difficult for me personally to quantify, even estimate how many of these things there are. So I'm going to go on the conservative side and just say hundreds. But again, it's like they're swimming rather than flying. I don't know. It's different. And also, you could see how far I zoomed in. To zoom in from this distance and still see them like this is crazy. But compare that to these gnats. I mean, this looks like ash raining down. I mean, there's just nothing. The two are so dissimilar. It's very apparent that these are not the same things being captured, in my opinion, at least. In my mind, you look at something like this, and then you look at something like this, and they're apples and oranges. And these are just some particularly strange oranges.
Now I'm going to show you something I've spoken of before but never actually shown you the way I'm about to show you. The video that we're going to watch is only the first 50 seconds of a video I took a few years back. In this video, you can see these 3 black dots that are in a triangle shape. The top one of the triangle is more prominent and darker than the 2 below it. The top one is visible for the entire first 50 seconds of the video. The 2 below it fade in and out. So that's what it looks like when the 2 below it are visible. This is what it looks like when the 2 below it are invisible, but you can still see the darker one at the top of that triangular formation. When these 2 below that darker one are visible, there are also many others throughout the scene which are also visible. This one, for example, center screen, black dot just above and to the right of that street light. Keep an eye on that one. And notice this is when the other 2 in the triangle are visible. Oops. Here, when the other 2 in the triangle are not visible, neither is that one. And there's about 10 others that you can notice the same thing about. Here, the two lower ones of the triangle are visible. Here's another one right here. And right here. Those are visible when the 2 lower ones in the triangle formation are visible. When the 2 lower ones disappear, so do those ones. Along with this one. Let's look at this one. Oops. Right there. There's also this white orb over here. And both of them become invisible whenever the 2 lower craft in the triangle formation are invisible. Poof, they're gone. So now let's watch the video. Okay, so this is the very beginning of the video. Let's turn the volume down and let it roll. You can see there's the prominent one that's visible the whole time. And the two below it are starting to become kind of sort of visible. Oops, I kind of messed it up. The two lower ones in the triangle formation are kind of becoming visible. They kind of fade in and out of view. But the top one in the triangle formation is visible for the entire 50 seconds. Anywhere during this video, you'll be able to see the lower two more clearly toward the last few seconds before I pause the video and go start filming somewhere else. There's the lower two in the triangle formation, easily seen. Here I've paused it at a spot where you can see the two lower ones in the triangle formation. And when those are visible, there's also one right here. Oops, made me an extra mark. There's also one center screen right there. Here's the two over here, here, and here. Oops, made me another extra mark. There are many others throughout the video that you can see, such as, oops, come on, give me the pencil. Here, here, these two right here, one right here, and one over there. My pencil wasn't working very well. All of these that are visible, they're only visible when the two lower ones in the triangle formation, here and here. When those two are visible, so are all the rest. When those two are invisible, so are all the rest. Now they're invisible and you can't see any of the others. When they become visible, you can see all the others. This proves they're all sharing the same cloaking device, the same cloaking system that conceals the two on the bottom of the triangle formation, conceals all the rest of them throughout the sky. When the two lower ones of the triangle formation appear visible, so do all the rest of them in the sky. Therefore, they're all sharing the same cloaking system. Watch as the two lower ones of the triangle formation become visible. You can see all the others. It's toward the last few seconds that they're the most visible, and so are all of the others. Wait for it. There you go. You can see the bottom two on the triangle, and you can see all the others scattered throughout the sky, stationary. Therefore, they have a cloaking system that enables them to be stationary in the sky. There, now they're suddenly visible. That's a good transition point right there at about 40 seconds. Where it goes from right now, they're barely visible, kind of invisible, and you can even see like a jump cut in the video right there. Now, they're all visible all throughout the sky. Oops, I kind of moved it a little bit. Now there's something that happens right at the 15-second mark. When I zoom in, I zoom back out twice. It's like I zoom all the way in here in just a second. Wait for it. Going to zoom all the way in. And then as I zoom out, watch what happens. You can catch a glimpse of it right as I zoom out. Notice how I take 2 or 3 steps to zoom out. When I'm zooming back out, something appears. Zoom in, and then I zoom out twice. Once, twice. And if you watch, right above this power line, in this area, right as I zoom out, you can maybe see it in full speed. Wait till right as I zoom out, you can see it twice, there and there. I've slowed it down and got a better recording that we'll shift to here in just a second. Zoom in. Right as I zoom out, clip, clip. You can see all those little black dots, and I thought, wait, what was that? Here I've done the work of slowing it down. Zoom in, slow it down, and as I zoom back out, each time I zoom back out, you can see all these little black dots appear in the sky. I've caught still frames of those we're going to look at here in just a second. And I believe it's the Doppler effect. I'll explain that in just a moment as well. Watch right as I zoom out. There and there. Right at the moment where you zoom out, it's changing the frequency, the synchronization between shutter speed and frame rate, and the way the light is absorbing into the camera. It's the Doppler effect. One more time and I'll show you the still frames of what that is in the sky. Right as I zoom out, right there and there. Here's one of them. Here's the other. When we already have the evidence that there's clearly some sort of black dot craft floating in the sky, multiple of them all over, using some sort of cloaking device, it is illogical and irrational to write this off as, oh, that's just a digital artifact of the camera, digital dust, nets, whatever other bullshit you might want to tell yourself. It's far more logical and reasonable to accept that whatever that is in the sky that's using the cloaking system, where all of them come into view at the same time and all of them go out of view at the same time, this is also something that's actually in the sky being concealed. Nets don't vary in size. Some of these are 5 times the size of the others. It's more like clumps of smart dust. It's dragon dust. This might actually be part of the cloaking system itself, where they create kind of a screen in the sky. Like liquid crystal display, but this is a powder crystal display. Plasma screen. I've slowed it down a little bit more. I uploaded it, and now we're watching it in 0.25. So this is like 1/16 of the speed. Wait for it. As I zoom out, dragon dust, and then it happens again right here, dragon dust. Watch it one more time in super slow-mo. And it's right as I zoom out both times. I'll explain the Doppler effect here in just a second. When we zoom out, bam! And then when I zoom out again, bam! Get one screen, one shot of them. Now we'll watch it in full speed one more time, just to see if you can catch a glimpse of them in full speed. Wait till I zoom out. 1, 2. That's how quick it is. Zoom in. And then right as I zoom out, 1, 2. One more time. In. 1, 2. So there's 2 kinds of Doppler effect, the visual kind and the audible kind. When you hear a train coming at you and it sounds high pitch as it's coming towards you, and then as soon as it passes you, it sounds like it's a low pitch. It happens with a race car or with a train. Also visually, they call it red shift and blue shift The phenomenon is called the Doppler effect, which refers to the apparent change in frequency of a sound wave when the source of the sound is moving relative to the observer, causing a higher pitch as it approaches and a lower pitch as it moves away. Tells you who it was named after. A red shift in a star's light indicates that the star is moving away from the observer, while a blue shift means that the star is moving towards the observer. Essentially, the color shift is due to the stretching and compressing of light waves caused by the Doppler effect. This video is titled Camera Shutter Speed and Frame Rate Matches the Helicopter's Rotors. That's why it looks like it's raising up without the rotors moving, because they're all synchronized. The frame rate, the camera shutter speed, and the rotation of the rotors. And if you were to quickly zoom in or zoom out, if the camera was falling away from the helicopter, it would change the rate of absorption of the way that the light, as the helicopter gets further away, you could see that the rotors started to appear to move. That's what's happening when you zoom in or zoom out. Imagine a 10-mile-an-hour wind in your face, and you ride a bicycle at 5 miles an hour into the wind. Now you're feeling 15 miles an hour worth of wind against your face. When you ride 5 miles an hour with the wind, you're only feeling 5 miles an hour. So now imagine this as the light coming at the camera from the direction of that which you're pointed at. Let's just say it's hitting the camera at 1,000 waves, light waves per second. When you zoom in towards the object, now it's hitting the camera at 1,200 light waves per second. When you zoom out, now it's only hitting the camera at 800 light waves per second. You're essentially affecting the frequency of the light waves absorbing into the camera using something like the Doppler effect when you apply the zoom in or out. And when I zoomed out both times, it created some sort of synchronicity between the frequencies of the shutter speed and the frame rate of the camera and the cloaking mechanism and the light waves. That's about all I can explain it, best I can explain it. I think it has something to do with something like the Doppler effect when you use the zoom, and this gives us a tactic and a strategy, a technique to be able to utilize, to be able to see through the cloaking system. Pay closer attention from now on when you're watching videos of people taking videos of the sky. When they zoom in or out, oftentimes your mind kind of blends it in. In fact, that's how they do subliminals in commercials. When they change scenes between two scenes, they can slip a single frame into the video and you don't notice. Because of the shift in scenery, your mind kind of blocks that half a second out and blends it all in with the rest of the video. So when you're taking video, do a hard zoom in and a hard zoom out a couple times. That way when you're watching your video on the playback, you can pay close attention to that fraction of a second when you zoom in and out, utilizing the Doppler effect that somehow penetrates the cloaking system. And when you're watching other people's videos, pay close attention to that point when they zoom in or out, because that might be when you're able to see a glimpse of what is being concealed in the sky. And just to reiterate, this video will be linked in the description. It's called Plasma-Powered Thunderbird Source Video, and it is the first 50 seconds of this video. That triangle pattern of black dot craft on the right side of the screen proves that there is a cloaking system at work. The lower two craft of that triangle formation come into view, and at the same time, about 10 other craft within the scene come into view. When they are out of view and not very visible, so are all of the rest of the craft out of view and not very visible. This proves they are all being concealed by the same cloaking system. When you know this to be true because you can see it with your own eyes, oh, and by the way, you might lose a little bit of clarity and resolution through the screen recording process, so you might be able to see it a little clearer by clicking the link in the description and watching the original video. if you're interested. This proves there is a cloaking system that works on the two lower ones as well as all of the other dots, little black dot craft floating in the sky. They're not just using speed as camouflage. They can be sitting right in front of your face, stationary in the sky, and remain invisible. We can watch them go from less visible, nearly invisible, in fact, completely invisible in some frames, to highly visible. And it's simultaneously synchronized with all of the other little black dot craft that go from invisible to visible at the same time, proving they're all using the same cloaking system. When you know this about this particular scene, based on all the other little black dot craft floating in the sky, it is illogical to dismiss what you can see when you hit the reverse zoom on both occasions. If I would have zoomed in and then back out a third time, you would have been able to see all that little sky garbage in the sky a third time. Thus, what we're seeing in the reverse zoom Doppler effect, it is logical and reasonable to think it's the same thing that we're seeing in the sky everywhere else in this same part of the video. Including all of these little ones here that are vague, kind of hard to see, but there's two right there, one right here, one right here, one right here. And all of them are only visible when the two lower craft are visible in this triangle formation over here. You pause the video where those lower two are invisible, you can't see any of these. This one, this one, this one. There's a little one there that's barely visible. This one, this one. Those all become invisible whenever these two are not visible, proving these craft are using a cloaking system that works on all of them. They all share the same cloaking system. One here, one here. And even the orbs, this white orb here, there's one here and one here. All of these things are not visible when the two lower craft in the triangle formation are not visible. Sky boogers. Lots and lots of sky boogers. These are the same sky boogers that become visible when you zoom back due to something like the Doppler effect. And somehow it synchronizes the frame rate and the shutter speed and the frequency of the light waves or whatever it is that's concealing all of this stuff for a split second as I zoomed back and allowed us to see it. Sky boogers everywhere. Not gnats. When you see all the other floating black dot craft in the same scene, it's illogical and irrational to try and blow these off as bugs. Not bugs. Dragon dust. Well, what do you mean dragon dust? See all this glitter that's running down the surface of this piece of wood? I've made a couple of videos where I'm scrubbing. You can see all the glitter, right? All that glitter is probably the nanoparticles of metal that have been sprayed in the atmosphere that sink into the soil and the water and the wood. And they become visible when I'm scrubbing these pieces of wood that I make the plasma-fired pieces of the Promethean forest. When I'm scrubbing the charcoal to clean the wood off prior to lacquering it, this is what can be seen. Nanoparticles. These nanoparticles could clump together, be remotely controlled, even serve as an information storage facility and an information processor, literally storing your information in the cloud, giving the clouds AI sentience. So let's try and get maybe back a little bit or forward to where you can see. So that's one of the videos that I made, showing the glitter, titled Glittering Metallic Nanoparticles Stream from Inside of Burnt Tree. Here's another one that I made titled Self-Replicating Nanobots Made Visible. You see all the silvery metallic glitter? I don't think that's just chunks of charcoal. Kind of moved the camera around a bit too much on this one. But you can see them pretty good. That might be what we're seeing in the sky. And since I brought it up, I've got to give you some bootleg Mr. MBB333 content where he shows you what these nanoparticles are made of. Aluminum and copper are smaller than a human hair for the purpose of solar radiation mitigation. But there's probably multi-use, multi-purposes. In fact, I guarantee there is. So, in this video that I made 2 years ago, titled Magnetic by Judith Edelman, Solar Radiation Mitigation Program in Effect, I include a link to Mr. MB3's video where it says the truth about the trails. And now it says this video is private. At the time, he had uploaded that video 6 years prior and then made it private. Lucky for us, this video that I made 1 year ago, I captured his video that he's made private now. He didn't just switch it to unlisted, he switched it to private. The audio isn't that great because I'm recording from one phone to another, but it's information that's unavailable on the internet anymore. This is a video where I showed you a pilot accidentally hit the button and chemtrailed the runway. Oops. But then we're going to watch Mr. MB3's explanation of what these particles are. Monitors altitude and airspeed, and even if you entered the code in to disperse the juice, it would say altitude theory.
Guys, what you're looking at right here is the sky from this morning, about 8:30 from southeast Phoenix, Arizona. Chemtrailing was very, very prominent for just a few hours, and then it quit. The afternoon skies were very normal, but as you can clearly see this morning, it was not. And as usual, it's always around the proximity of the sun. In my case, they're normally flying from, like in this video, from March of this year. They're flying from that same direction, in fact, southeast to northwest, or from east to west. This particular day, you could tell it was just a full-blown, urgent type of situation. You could just feel the urgency literally in the air. I want to say this was March 22nd. And at one time during this video I took, I think there were 18 or 20 different lines right in through here. All I did with the video was convert it into a negative format so that the lines would be black, the sky would be white. So you could have a little different perspective. Here's my theory, and again, it's just a theory, okay? I'm not a scientist. I am a man who's given this a lot of thought, like most of you have, and this is what I've concluded. I think what we're looking at here is an attempt to save Earth's magnetic shields and atmosphere from something in space. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with the magnetic fields. I think they're sensing something that they're not used to. Like we noticed an anomaly back on April 23rd. This was in March. I think there was something that was noticed by whoever monitors or has the fine equipment. They noticed a breach in the atmosphere. When they notice a breach, lines, sometimes grids like you see right here, are implemented, probably depending on the severity of the breach. These lines are made up of, and again, this is just a theory. I'm entitled to a theory, just like you are. These lines are made up of these things right here, nanoparticles. This thing is basically a neutralizer. It collects energy, a foreign type of energy that your magnetic shields are not used to. So it needs some help. This thing here is made of aluminum and copper. It's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 times smaller than a human hair, so it can be dispersed in an aerosol form. Because you can set these things on the ground, and they're not going to do any good. They have to become airborne. That's what they are. So they're dispersed by airplanes to be airborne. Independently, they're no good. But in a huge assembly of lines, they're apparently working pretty good. And what they're doing, this is a picture from this morning, May 11th. Southeast, flying to the northwest, in the proximity of the sun. You can see how they're thin. Those lines were just laid as I was driving to the school. 20 minutes later, right here, coming back to the east, see how they've gotten bigger and fanned out? Those are the same lines. They've collected the energy that they're supposed to. They disperse.
Notice the difference between the yellow sun on the left and the blue sun on the right. He took that with the same camera 20 minutes apart. This matches Jay Dreamer's explanation that the temperature of light, measured in Kelvin, is much cooler when it's yellow and orange like we used to remember the sun, and then it turns to white and then it goes to blue. Clearly you can see the difference. Maybe that's why they were laying down the solar radiation mitigation as heavy as they were, because they saw we're about to get an increase.
20 minutes later, right here, coming back to the east, see how they've gotten bigger and fanned out? Those are the same lines. They've collected the energy that they're supposed to, and they disperse and fall to the ground. Maybe they don't fall to the ground. I think maybe they do, though. But it just depends on the strength of that given day and where the energy is coming in at. That's where the planes are sent to, and the spraying begins. That's just my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I've thought of every single scenario under the sun, and that's the only one that I can logically speak of. I don't think there's a sinister attack on humanity. I don't think that. That's too much work. They've been doing this for several years now. I just think it's just an old-fashioned attempt like Ben Franklin made back in the 1700s. You know, he invented the old lightning rod that captured the energy before it damaged your home, you know. That was through a grounding process. This is terminally airborne grounds. It takes the energy and disperses it in the atmosphere, and it helps the atmosphere contain it. The source of this energy, well, again, that's a whole nother subject. Personally, I think it's a combination of two things. I'm a believer in the binary star system. I believe we have two suns. We just can't see the second sun. I don't think you can ever see it. I don't think one day we're going to wake up and see two stars in the sky that resemble something from Star Wars. I just don't think that's going to happen. However, I think our sun feels its close approach. And its close approach may be 10 billion, 20 billion miles away, farther. Who knows? But it can still feel it. It can sense it. When it senses it, it changes its energy output from, let's just call it a yellow dwarf. Say, all we've ever known is got the energy output and the magnetic shields of Earth are used to a yellow dwarf energy output. Well, as the second sun approaches and gets closer, it feels it, changes its energy output to say that of a white dwarf. So the spraying begins, and most of it is right in front of the sun because it changes the output of the sun. Pay attention to your surroundings where you're at, guys. You're going to see an absence of man-made color. Look at car paint. Look at signs on buildings, mainly ones that face east, south, or southwest. You'll notice those signs are bleached. The color is fading rapidly. That's because of an influenced UV light. And I think it's influenced by binary star.
UV light, as in ultraviolet. The black sun is purple. What they call black light are purple lights that we call black light. Violet, ultraviolet, I think he's a believer in the black sun. Or as the musicians Canon sing in their song Purple Sun, baby, I'm just having fun underneath the purple sun. When that sun comes, I won't come undone, 'cause I've got you.
It's affecting our star in a way that they're trying to deal with it the best way that they can. And I think our magnetic...
And in the movie They Live, those glasses that they put on where they could see the aliens are called Hoffman lenses. Hoffman lenses are what allow you to see in the ultraviolet spectrum. If this black sun enters and we are experiencing more UV, maybe we will be able to see things because of this new light spectrum that we weren't previously able to see. I've made a couple videos on this subject called Eyes to See in the UV black light spectrum of the age of Aquarius. I'll include those videos linked in the description. They include content from James True and J-Dreamers regarding this and validating that theory. James True says the RGB, red, green, blue spectrum adds all the colors up to create white. And this new light spectrum starts with black and subtracts. Instead of adding the colors together, it's a subtractive process. But he has basically the same theory about this ultraviolet light spectrum that will change our ability to see in different ways. And that might be what the movie They Live was about. It's not about putting on a pair of glasses. It's about when everyone has those glasses put on them because of the new UV spectrum in our atmosphere, and that was represented by the Hoffman lenses, which are ultraviolet glasses. This may also have something to do with the black light street lights that have been appearing all over the country by the thousands with no good explanation. And it definitely has something to do with the song called Purple Sun by Cannons. Link will be in the description for that song. A little Muse message to go with the video.
It's affecting our star in a way that they're trying to deal with it the best way that they can. And I think our magnetic shields and our ionosphere sense it from time to time in the form of disturbances, maybe a disconnect. That's what happened here. They don't fully understand the disconnect phenomenon. When we notice these things, they take the data down and say that it was nothing. Well, it's very obvious it was. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean, it's not something that maybe we can't figure out together. But It's just the way it is. That's another reason I'm motivated to build our own magnetic field observatory. It's not that hard, but it's like anything else. It's funds that set us back and keep us from accomplishing these things. I don't like asking for money, guys. I've always done everything on my own. I don't like asking for money. That's not me. It's not who I am. But I definitely feel the urgency that this project does need to be done. If not by me, then by somebody else that has the money to do it. Get motivated and do it. Because the magnetic shields of Earth can tell you a wealth of information. Do you understand that? They can give you a whole wealth of knowledge. It's like a giant set of ears to outer space. And not only that, you can monitor the health of the magnetic shields themselves. If there is a planetary body near Earth or the solar system, those instruments are going to tell you. Do you realize that? They're going to tell you. But back to the chemtrails and the spraying, I think that's what's going on, guys. I do think there is a source of energy that the magnetic shields and the atmosphere in general are just having a hard time dealing with. I think they're spraying nanoparticles in the air that are acting as airborne energy diffusers. They're harnessing this energy. Once they're done harnessing their energy and doing, or that form of energy, doing their job, they fan out in a fashion just like I saw this morning, and they disperse. They may fall back down to Earth. I don't know. But they're probably assessing the damage, and they're probably weighing one against the other. I don't know. I have no idea. It's just a theory. But if you went to that Conrad Observatory website that I told you guys to look at last night, there's another wealth of knowledge. Those people are experts in the magnetic field. They've already told us that it's moved 20 degrees since they've been monitoring it, over 170 years. So you can do the math. And you can form a respectable conclusion based off of that. They said it's weakened 10% in that time as well. So is it weakening just because of day-to-day wear and tear? Or is it weakening because of an influence of a second source of energy? I don't know. But we could figure it out if we had the right equipment and we didn't have information being taken away from us. We had a steady flow of data that we could monitor these anomalies. We could figure it out. So that's what's motivated me, guys. And to be quite honest with you, I've never shared this with you guys, but my theory of what happened to the dinosaurs is not a catastrophic comet or a 6-mile wide asteroid that hit the Gulf of Mexico or Yucatan. I don't believe that. My theory is the magnetic shields went down and everything on Earth went down with them. That's my theory. I don't believe the comet thing hit the Earth and destroyed the atmosphere from within. I think the magnetic shields went down. They've done it before, and they're going to do it again. And I think this is an attempt to at least slow down the process until they can figure out a better approach. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. And if you can help with the cause, get some magnetic field equipment, that would be absolutely awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.
Purple Sun by Cannons. Link will be in the description. This may also be a clue about why the magenta color, also linked in the description, will be the song Magnetic by Judith Edelman. It's the buzz when I'm full, and that buzz would be the cosmic egg timer. Normally an egg timer is how long it takes to cook an egg. This is more like the amount of time it takes to incubate a culture of consciousness. And when that egg timer goes off, you know it's time to harvest and till the soil and replant the petri dish of consciousness on the consciousness farm. It's of your sweet magnetic pull. It's the tug that I crave. It's how opposites behave. Is electricity all there is to you and me? In the field, where the static is revealed. If the north isn't true, will I lose my way to you? Is electricity all there is to you and me? What's gonna happen when the magnetism fades? Will we burn up on that bright day? Oh yeah, plasma fire. That probably also works into the equation here. Will the aurora borealis give us one last show? You can't leave love to science when you go. It even gave me purple music notes. This is the solar radiation mitigation program in effect. I will include the link in the description by Mr. MB3, where he shows you exactly what these nanoparticles are made of. 50% copper, 50% aluminum, and you notice how it's all... So Mr. MB3 has since went back and made that video private after it had been posted and available for 6 or 7 years. It's probably up to 8 years now. 8 years ago he posted that. And after it had been up for 6 or 7 years, he decided to go back and make it private so people couldn't watch it. So that is some bootleg vintage MB3 material that's unavailable anymore. Notice also that it's only right in front of the sun. I do a pan around here in just a second, and I think Mr. MB3 is right about that. That's what those particles are, solar radiation mitigation. In fact, recently they say Doge found a department called Blocking Out the Sun, BOTS, B-O-T-S, Blocking Out the Sun. People are like, they're trying to kill us. They're trying to keep us from ascending to 5D and getting our DNA upgrades from the sun. Speaking of Elon, he made a statement recently regarding the cartels that have been designated a terrorism organization and said that that means they're eligible for drone strikes right here in the U.S. And people started freaking out because they imagined drone strike as a Predator drone or a Reaper drone dropping a Hellfire missile. But when you recognize there's these Mach 2 footballs that can pinpoint an individual within a crowd of people, drone strike might not mean what you think it means. And they probably don't have to physically hit you. They can hit you with electromagnetics that have a wide-ranging array of effects on a person, from debilitating them to deleting them. So if this nanoparticle glitter can clump together in various different sizes, from the size of a football doing Mach 2 to the size of a bullet, it's conceivable that drone strike could mean something different than anything we've ever imagined. You will be assimilated, resistance is futile comes to mind when you see that this stuff is hanging in the sky right in front of you behind a cloaking system that prevents us from being able to see it. But we caught a glimpse of it. And once you know, you know. And I think a good time to really actually reveal this stuff would probably be this summer, when there's so many fires happening all over the place that even the normies are all waking up going, what the hell? Why is the world burning up all around us out of control and there's nothing we can do to stop it? It's like, hey, but did you hear about the Mach 2 footballs flying around in the atmosphere that can be hovering right in front of you behind a cloaking device? That diverts the conversation. If people knew that what took out the dinosaurs is the magnetic shields dropping, and right now they're dropping so quickly we're having fires all over the place, anyone who says that people would remain calm and obey the laws and that it wouldn't turn into a Mad Max scenario is just naive. So a good time to roll out some of these things would be to change the news headlines, to divert the conversations people are having around the water cooler at work when they're going, what's with all these fires? Why is everything burning up? Roll out the UAP dragons. Say, yeah, I know about the fires, but did you hear about these little black dot craft that can be sitting right in front of you and you don't even see them? And they can be doing Mach 2, so you don't see them that way either? Hope I've made my point here. Feel like I'm beating a dead horse. But they're literally all over in the sky here. All over. And these are all the sky boogers that are just vaguely visible. Other than when I zoomed back, created the Doppler effect, and they all became very visible. And I don't like to scare people. I think people are already way too scared of all of this. But there was a video that I made a while back. It kind of got removed. It was called Spontaneous Cranial Combustion. It was a video of a guy from, apparently the video was taken in Israel. And there was a guy with smoke pouring out of his eyes and mouth and nose. The only orifice on his head that didn't have smoke coming out of it was his ears. And the smoke wasn't just oozing, it was jutting out like little jets. Pushing the smoke out 6-8 inches in front of his face through his eye sockets. And he's just stumbling around like he's dizzy. He's not screaming in pain. It's like it overrides all of his sensors. Your sensors in your body are only capable of registering a certain range of stimulus, and this was like way off the register. It's like he didn't even feel it. He was just kind of stumbling around, and the people around him were taking their water bottles and squirting him in the face, trying to put him out. Another guy runs up and puts a jacket over his head, like trying to smother the fire out, right? Extinguish it by starving it for oxygen kind of thing. Think about the implications in regards to drone strikes. If those trees that I just showed you that are oozing this metallic glitter are chocked full of it the way they are, and all the soil and the water and the air is chocked full of this metallic nanoparticle that has multiple uses, everything from being a cloaking apparatus in the sky to conceal and obscure things that are floating up there, like those little black dot craft. If we are also full of those nanoparticles. That's what I'm getting at here. We are just as full of those nanoparticles as that tree was. And so is every other plant and animal in the soil and the water and the air. Put that all together, and you will be assimilated. Resistance is futile is probably not just a fanciful thing from a sci-fi thing about the board.